Hey there. Welcome to Head, Heart, and Hustle, the podcast for creatives. I'm Alan Plummer, your host. As always, thank you for listening. Anyone with a side hustle or creative outlet can feel isolated from their friends, their family, and others around them who just don't get their passion. That's why Head, Heart, and Hustle exists, to help you feel motivated, learn, and just get a nice pick-me-up of creative energy from other people like yourself. Every episode, I interview a creative individual who doesn't just pretend to be creative. They've rolled up their sleeves and are producing great things because they need to. They know that being creative is part of who they are. Sound familiar? Great, you're in the right place. Today, I'm interviewing Melody Peng. Melody's an actress in Los Angeles. She is not a household name, but she certainly had some good luck the past couple years. She's done a number of commercials. She's done a number of cable shows. She's done some internet stuff. And she is by all means a working, struggling actress. If you've ever considered what the life of an actor is like in Los Angeles, if you think you may be interested in pursuing acting, if the acting bug has bit you, this is the episode for you. Let's dive in. Melody, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. We pushed back about an hour or so. You, true to an actor's life, you were literally just coming from an audition, if I understand correctly.
Yes, I am. I was there for 2.5 hours.
I can't even imagine. Well, before we dive into that, because I do want to ask some questions about that. I saw some tweets you ran a couple minutes ago. Tell folks who you are and what you do, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive in from there.
Okay, cool. So my name is Melody Peng. I studied business in college at the University of Michigan and came out to LA for work, actually, and decided that I would rather be an actor than sit at my desk all day. So
Nice.
after about a 9-month stretch of kind of sneaking out to auditions during my 9 to 5, everybody was getting pissed at me, my agents, my manager at work, because I was kind of in and out of both sides without really committing to one. And I decided to take a chance on myself and go all in on the actor's life. So I've been doing that full time for about 3 years now, 2-3 years.
Oh, wow.
I lose track.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it's been an adventure.
Yeah. So you had the opposite, right? Because I was sure you were going to say to me, "Oh, I came out to LA to be an actor, and I studied in college." So you have a business degree.
Yeah, I do, and I actually found that it's very helpful because acting, a lot of it is just being yourself, and I know how to be myself. I've been myself for almost 30 years now, and but a lot of actors don't understand is that it's business. It's not personal. Sometimes if you don't get a role, it's not because you were a bad actor, but it's because of a multitude of many other things that could have happened that had nothing to do with you. So that's something that, coming from the business side, knowing that a lot of decisions are made very irrationally, that I've been able to handle, I think, pretty well.
So I want to get into it. So you were just at an audition, and you said it was a chemistry audition, and that it took me a second to figure out what that means. And then I felt a little bit slow, and then I was like, oh, I think I get that. Because you said it was like dating. What is that?
So a chemistry read is, usually it comes toward the end of the audition process, and they've seen each of the actors once or twice. And now they're just testing a few actors against each other to test out the chemistry, really. So they'll have, like today, they had one guy stay in the room, and they rotated out 3 different girls. I was one of them.
Right.
And then they switched guys, and we read with them again. So it really was kind of like a dating game.
Totally get it. I don't know why that didn't resonate with me. I read it. Maybe it was the context. I read it on Twitter, and I was literally thinking like chemistry. I don't know why. I was just like, what is it a corporate film? What? I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired. I don't get it. But yeah, very cool. So you've been doing this for a couple years now. So you got a business degree in college. Growing up, were you a creative person? Did you act as a teenager, or was it like kind of being out in LA that the bug hit, or what was that like?
That's a good question. I did do a play in 2nd grade.
Okay.
And I remember I had a lot of fun. It was a Christmas Carol. It was, a holiday. I love Christmas everything. So I had a great time doing that.
Right.
And then after that, I don't know, I played piano. I always loved writing, but I never really imagined making a career out of it. It just seemed so abstract. And
right.
When I got to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, like a lot of people. So I studied business and communications, thinking that no matter what I ended up in after college, I'd be able to use those degrees. And yeah, they both helped me out as an actor, actually.
Well, and so you said you grew up playing piano then, so you did have a little bit of that. Do you have siblings? Were your parents creative when you were kids? Did they have outlets like that?
My mom actually really encouraged my writing and piano, but I didn't love piano, and she didn't really force that on me.
Yeah.
But she had thought that maybe I could be a writer, and I love traveling, and I hate dressing up, actually, so ironically, I'm on camera actor now. And she's like, you know what, writing would be the perfect job for you because you just roll out of bed, you can wear your nasty sweatpants that you had for 10 years, and nobody will judge you.
And have no contact with people whatsoever.
Exactly.
That, trust me,
email,
I can tell you, trust me, it's glamorous and it's really not. So you start talking to yourself, you drink a pot of coffee a day. It's just bad. It's just bad.
Yeah, well, now I write a blog for fun, but I've never really thought about turning that into a business and trying to make money with my writing because I really can't take feedback on my writing, and I know that if someone were to buy it, they'd have
really.
I needed to take all sorts of input.
But that's funny because we just talked about your acting, and you were really great in explaining how, like, if you get turned down for a role, that it's not about you. What do you think is different about the writing then?
Oh gosh,
Because I write, so having been a writer and working with a lot of writers now, and I'm in a marketing role. I mean, a lot of our writers professionally get feedback, and it's not about them. It's about the content or anything else. And it's funny because at the end of the day, those guys are like, well, my name's not on the piece of paper. It's a corporate gig. I'm just curious because your response about the acting was so great. I was just surprised to hear you kind of say that about your writing.
Well, I think it's different because when I act, I'm lifting the words that somebody else has written off the page and bringing my own element into a character that someone else has created. It's somebody else's vision that I'm just fulfilling and sprinkling a little bit of my own personality into.
Yep.
But when I'm writing, the whole thing is my creation. And when I've had other people try to read my writing out loud to me, and it is so painful because if they mess up the cadence, mispronounce a word, it makes my writing sound terrible. And it is the most, it's so infuriating. So I guess overall, I'm just a little bit more possessive of my own words.
Sure. And it's your own ideas and thoughts, and you're putting them down on paper, and you put yourself out there. Absolutely. Yeah. So you moved out to LA, you finished college, you moved out to LA, you're doing a corporate job. No doubt, I'm sure that you're surrounded by actors and writers and everything. That seems to be the stereotype. And I joke about that with my friends that live out in Los Angeles. What was that moment that made you kind of decide, okay, I'm gonna do this?
Well, it kind of came in a couple stages. So before I moved out to LA, I was working a corporate job in Minneapolis. Okay. And it was very comfortable. I had a large group of friends. Cost of living is very low.
Yep.
And but I had always kind of thought, man, I would rather just be making people laugh and entertaining people. I always thought about this during budget meetings. Oh my gosh, we were
about
going
the
over finances.
The what meeting?
Budget meeting.
Okay, got it.
I worked in supply chain.
Okay.
So we had a lot of financial meetings.
Really sexy stuff, by the way. Yeah.
But I was on myself daydreaming about working in entertainment. And the kind of turning point for me in Minnesota was I love Daniel Tosh's stand-up, and I was watching one of his stand-up specials, and he had a line that said, this is no offense to anybody, but his line said something like, isn't that what the middle of the country is for? People who gave up on their dreams. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, my God, I have to make the move to L.A. I've been thinking about it for a while. And so I found a corporate job that covered my moving expenses and moved me here to start a new job with them. Awesome. And I started taking classes, and that's kind of how that started.
So do you do stand-up now? I mean, you've mentioned that a couple times. You seem to be a pretty jokey, kind of tongue-in-cheek person. Have you ever tried any of that?
You know, I haven't because it is so scary.
Yeah.
I like writing my blog because I can reword it and change entire paragraphs, delete the whole thing until it's perfect, and then I can just deliver it.
Right.
And if people don't like it, I never see their reactions. It's not live feedback.
Yeah.
I like on-camera stuff because there are a million things that needs to happen before anybody sees your performance. And if you don't do a good job, maybe you'll get cut out of the whole thing. Nobody will see you do a terrible job.
Right.
But up and live shows are so different, and I think that's kind of something that I haven't yet conquered.
So
but I thought about it.
So definitely screen, not stage.
Yes. Well, I've done like UCB and Groundlings. I wouldn't say I'm very good. Yeah, I was okay at it. I kind of did it just to throw it on my resume, I guess. And so people would think I'm funnier.
Yeah, there you go.
Really
there you go. That's good. What's been some of the big surprises that you've had kind of going into this? Because I think there's a lot of, I think everybody thinks they know the life of an actor. There's certainly stereotypes, right? Like you wait tables, you're always on auditions. You've always got a headshot kind of at the ready, you know, those types of stereotypes. What is one or two of the things that really surprised you when you started to make that switch and really actively started pursuing acting as a living?
I think one thing that surprised me initially is that you can be the most amazing actor and never get booked for a job. And so much of that has nothing to do with you, or your acting skills at least.
Right.
One of the first auditions I actually went on, I went to the initial audition and the callback, and I was told, oh my gosh, you did a great job, blah, blah, blah. And I felt really good about it. But this was an ensemble cast, and a couple of weeks later, I got an email from the director that said, hey, we really loved your work, you did a great job, but we chose another lead, and with that lead, we had a whole nother cast kind of lined up. So I guess they had 2 different leads they were considering and 2 different groups for each lead.
Got it.
And because the other person got the role, I didn't get my job. So a lot of it doesn't even depend on your performance at all.
Yeah. Huh. That's I wouldn't have guessed that at all. So there's, to your point, there definitely is kind of these things that are beyond your control that just kind of steamroll. And so you've had a little bit of success, it sounds like, from doing a couple, if I understand correctly, a couple commercials and some other stuff that you've been fortunate enough to do, or no?
Yes, I've been pretty lucky actually. Most of the time it's things that I think I have no chance in hell of booking, so I don't even think twice. I go in, I leave, I don't think about it, and then a week later I get the call and I'm like, what was this? What is it?
Right.
What audition? Yeah, it's always the ones that you don't really overthink. But yeah, I've done a couple of commercials. I've done a few network shows, which are great because if you can land one on syndication, you keep getting those freaking paychecks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Right. And that's pretty impressive because that's no small task just to get those few things, you know, kind of in the first couple years. That's pretty diligent. What's an average week look like for you? So, I mean, how many auditions do you go to, or are you taking classes and studying, and what's kind of a typical day or a week look like?
Gosh, it kind of depends. It's really hard for me to make plans that aren't business related because for auditions, I'll get typically about 18 to 24-hour turnaround.
Oh, wow.
Where I get the notice from my agent, here are the sides, be here in Burbank at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And so I really can't have plans.
Yeah.
Or my friends or whoever I have plans with need to be okay with me bailing 12 hours in advance.
Sure.
Because that's kind of my schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of number of auditions, it depends on the time of the year. Episodic season, which is when people are trying to book co-stars and guest stars on shows that are airing,
right,
is September through kind of like December, I guess, end of November before the holiday season.
Yeah.
And then traditional pilot season is January through March. But now it's kind of a little bit mixed because with new media and with Amazon and Hulu and Netflix all doing their thing, it's kind of a year-round casting process whenever they have a project that's greenlit. So it depends, I'd say. I still think for me, personally, fall is the busiest, but it kind of it depends on your agent. It depends on where you're at in your career, if you are getting those pilot auditions. So yeah, I think for every person it's different.
Interesting. I didn't realize there were those kind of seasons to that. That makes perfect sense to hear you describe it, but that's something I wasn't necessarily aware of. That's cool. So what do you think, what would you argue has been your biggest success, or what are you most proud of having done this for a couple years now? Yeah, see, now we get to the tough ones.
Oh, gosh. Well, I have been very, very fortunate to a lot of people who believed in me before I even had credits. And I think one of the biggest surprises, actually, to go back to one of your earliest questions, was when I had only taken a couple weeks of classes. I really had no exposure to the industry, but I thought nobody wants to see me for an audition because I don't have a demo reel. And then it was kind of a catch-22 because how do I get
a demo reel if you don't get into things? Yeah.
Right. So one day I thought, I'm just going to write my own reel, write what you know. And I wrote a reel called This Is Not a Reel, and it explains why I don't have a reel, but why people should call me in anyway. And I made it super, I thought it was funny. It made me laugh. I shot it on my iPhone. It took about 24 hours to write, shoot, edit, upload. It's a piece of crap. Quality-wise, but I got the point across. I was able to get representation right from that.
Wow. And you did it by yourself?
Well, I had my sister hold the phone for me.
Right,
so
right.
I could
Okay.
do my thing.
But you didn't hire anybody, or you didn't set up lighting or get a cameraman or anything. Wasn't kind of that kind of production value.
Oh my gosh, no. We just went outside and shot each scene maybe twice. And it's about a minute-long reel.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's gutsy.
It was completely me. So people kind of benefit my personality. And yeah, I think that's what you want, a demo reel anyway.
Yeah, that's gutsy. That's impressive. And how many people would do that?
Kind of make it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, well, you kind of make your own break, in other words. That's very funny. That's very funny. That's cool. It's like a friend of mine who wanted to do stand-up, and when she first started out, she and one of her friends started performing on subway trains in New York, and they started doing skits. Oh. And that's how they got noticed. Yeah, she's the friend of mine who's the writer out in Los Angeles. And when they started out, in between kind of doing open mics and stand-ups and stuff, they started coming up with skits that they could perform on the subway. And this, again, late 90s, and they would kind of run and gun and not even tell people that they were performing. They'd show up and perform a skit, and then they'd jump off and go to the next car. It's kind of crazy. But at the time, It was really kind of revolutionary. Yeah. One of their skits, one woman came in like what was it? She came in as a homeless person and started singing for money on the car. And my friend went in as like a businesswoman and sat down, and they got on the car at the same time, and they didn't tell anybody they were doing this. And the woman who was dressed up as she was homeless would start singing like Memories from Cats or something like that. And she'd do a really bad job. Right. And so everybody in New York kind of gets a little awkward and quiet. And my friend who was in on the skit would start booing her and telling her she was awful, and she would stop. And like the crowd would start to like pile on with my friend, and they'd start yelling at this woman and telling her she was awful. Like, it was really bad, but they would get everybody involved, and it was purely, and then they'd stop like, a couple minutes in and tell everybody that it was kind of comedy and a skit, and they had written all that stuff. But they started getting noticed by publications and things like that. But it's a perfect example of kind of making your own breaks and kind of finding your own ways to kind of get in the door.
That's incredible. Yeah. Good for that.
Well, and here you are shooting your own kind of demo reels and stuff like that. So that's pretty impressive as well. So have you ever thought about doing kind of, you talked about writing and not necessarily taking critiques for your writing. Have you ever looked at like doing independent film or any kind of things like that? Or are you focused purely on television?
So I actually did, at the encouragement of a literary manager, write a TV pilot.
Oh, awesome.
That I find, to correct myself, I found funny for the first maybe 20 times that I read it. And now when I read it, I'm like, ugh, is this funny or just dumb? And so I'm kind of in the process of, I guess, getting a copy written and seeing what happens with it. It's gotten a little bit of interest, but the process of writing it kind of made me realize I'm not sure if writing scripted content is for me. I kind of just like rambling and blogging and being non-PC and not worrying about character development, just completely in my own voice. So I think that's a different hat that I'm not sure is good for me, but I tried it.
And it's good to be able to kind of experiment a little bit and test out some of that stuff. So that's pretty awesome. Has there been anything that you've done that has been, let me put it this way, what have you done over the past couple of years that was probably your biggest like lesson or aha that you're like, I won't do that again, or something that wasn't necessarily a misstep, but something that really was a growing experience for you?
I think one thing that I wish I knew a couple of years ago was that after you book the job, you're not done. You have to go on set, you have to be professional, and you network the heck out of it. Not in an annoying way, but you want to be someone that people will think of in the future and be like, oh, she was really great. Maybe because people switch sets all the time and are constantly working for multiple productions. So everybody talks, everybody knows each other. And not saying that I was like a bad person or anything, but I don't think I was as diligent as I could have been.
Right.
And representing myself as someone that people would want to hire again in the future and be top of mind. So that includes following up with people after production, being awesome at your job on set, even if they decide to hold you for an extra 5 hours. That's great. You get extra money.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's something that was a learning point for me, is that it's not about booking. It's about getting on set, doing a great job, and getting booked in the future.
Yeah. One of my, and it makes a lot of sense, because I think when you're trying to get booked and you're trying to get gigs, it's so focused on getting the job. And then it's like you get the job and you're on set and it's a whole other world, right? The caliber gets raised, It's like, okay, so you got to that point and now it's like, yeah, like you said, you want to perform well, you want to impress everybody. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of people forget in any career, in any kind of professional artistic career, your reputation precedes you. I've talked to friends of mine who are musicians, and they talk about that. A buddy of mine who built a reputation as a really good producer came about because he started producing his own band when they got signed to a record label, and he became known as kind of a fixer and somebody that people could easily work with. You know what I mean? And so they started sending bands to him because they knew he was reliable and they knew he was a hard worker, and all those traits and those attributes that you talked about, he was kind of known for, and it led his career in a different direction. But, man, did that open up doors for him.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, having producer friends and seeing all that goes into the making of a movie, I think what makes it easier for everyone, saving them money and saving time, is if they can just call up a few of their friends that they know and be like, hey, do you want this role? Do you want to do this? Do you want to be my AD, my DP? Without having to go through an extensive selection process. And so it really is about who you know, it's your reputation, like you said, and you're making everybody's job easier by being a reliable actor that people want to work with and can call on.
This is one of my favorite questions. It's a bit of a loaded question, so feel free to take your time to answer. It's a good one, though. Okay. It's a good one, though. How do you define creative success?
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
Really
there is no wrong answer. There's no music playing in the background. If it's silent, I'll edit it out. It's okay.
I would say creative success is total freedom without any inhibition. So complete, uninhibited freedom of expression. That's creative success, because if you have the means to do that, you have the ideas to do that, and you can really execute your creative vision, and portray the message that you want to portray, I think that makes anybody successful as a creative.
Yeah. And not have to worry about money, which is easier said than
done. Absolutely.
Which is easier said than done. Yeah, no, I think that's great. What advice would you have for other people who are pursuing their creative passions, whether it's acting, whether or not it's music? Think of anything kind of in general, and it can be specific to acting, but, just in terms of creativity in general, what advice would you give other people?
I would say think of yourself as Apple stock in the 90s. At the very beginning, nobody's going to want to work with you. You have no experience. Nobody's ever heard of you. Why would they take a chance on you? Why would they bet on you when there's so many other more established brands? But you have to believe in yourself so that every time you pitch yourself, you know that the people who say no to you are going to regret it one day, and that your stock is going to take off whether or not they say yes to you. And that's the confidence and the faith that you have to have in yourself every day going into this business, because you're going to hear no a lot.
That's a really good analogy. I've not heard anything like that before. I really like that. Very cool.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So my last question that I ask everybody is a fun one. One is, how do folks find you? How do they reach you if they're interested in kind of hearing more about the acting that you're doing and interested in kind of learning more about what you're up to and how they can reach out and be in touch with you?
Sure. Well, I'm on Twitter, which is how we got connected, at MPENG11. And also my website, I keep pretty updated, is www.melodypeng.com.
Got it. Thank you. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This has been a lot of fun. You are I said when we set this up, you are the first actor that I have interviewed. So I feel very honored. So this is awesome. This is
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've got other friends in Los Angeles, but none of them are working actors. So, I'll definitely be in touch. Wish you all the best. But yeah, thanks for taking time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Melody, for doing the interview. Hope you folks enjoyed it. Now, if you like the episode, shoot me an email and let me know. In fact, to show my appreciation, I'll send you a few stickers and buttons as my way of saying thanks. Just remember to include your mailing address in your email. You can reach me at headheartandhustle@gmail.com or through our website. You can also get email updates from us, which are fairly inconsistent depending on how busy my life gets. Visit headheartandhustle.com/newsletter to sign up. Also, remember that you can find us on the web at headheartandhustle.com. We're also on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Google+. The logo for the podcast was created by my friend Meg Shearer. If you like it, you can check out her other work on Society6. Just search for Meg's stuff on the website. The music you hear each episode was written and performed by my friends, the band Starch to Sugar. You can check them out at starchttosugar.com and on Facebook. Lastly, if you're interested in being interviewed for a future episode, contact me at headheartandhustle@gmail.com. As always, thanks for listening. Now go create something.